This is the Phenom, the latest resin printer from Peopoly. And for 1/5 the cost of a Form 3L, you're going to be able to print bigger. And that's exciting, and I can't wait to show you right here on 3D Printing Nerd. Hey, welcome back. We've stopped with the setup and the tear open of this machine, essentially because we've run into some issues and it's very sad. So I want to say, the very first thing that I noticed about this machine was that the box sitting out in front of my house was upside down. There were clear markings on the side of the box as to which way the box should be oriented, but it was not oriented that way. It was upside down, and I tweeted that out, and UPS delivered it. So this right here is the results of package mishandling by UPS. Unfortunately, UPS dented the printer, and they dented it really good. Look at that. That is insane. Plus, the LCD up front, it wiggles. And that's terrible. Here's what I want to talk about, though, real quick while I have you. Oh. This is the box the printer came in, and the foot, that foot of the printer that is bent, oh, it was positioned right here, right there. There is a giant gaping hole in the box, as if some machine had punctured it hard enough to bend steel. I've reached out to Mark from Peopoly and I said, yo, dude, UPS wrecked your machine. And he said, oh, that's not good. Hey, still test it out, see if it works, see if the LCD is aligned. And if it is, do the test print. And if the test print works, do the longer print. And if that works, then this is a testament to the build quality of the machine in that it can be mishandled in some of the most epic ways possible and still produce quality prints. So we have some work ahead of us. Let's get to it.
A few moments later.
So we've got the styrofoam out, and this machine has now shown us what's on the insides. The insides actually look pretty good, and they're quite beefy. If you take a look on the inside, there is a giant lead screw. I would imagine that's probably a ball screw in there. And there are two linear rails that the build plate holder, I guess whatever we're calling it, rides up and down on. We verified that power works. The screen, while flimsy, still functions because it is a touch screen. However, there's one can't even pronounce that word. There is one peculiar...
Sure.
There's one interesting and unique thing about this machine, and that is that it sounds like a jet engine. That is the... Did I just scream it off?
I think you did. I think you did.
Did I just scream it off?
Oh, it restarted.
What?
Did you hit a button?
Oh, my belly hit the power button. I thought I screamed it. That was... Okay, there we go. Sweet relief. So this machine has some pretty intense electronics on the inside that need to be cooled, and they do that by way of this incredibly loud fan exhausting the inside air to outside of this case. I think that you do what's necessary for a machine like this, but in this open studio, there's not a lot of room for a machine like this. So eventually this will live in the garage where it can print all day long and we don't have to worry about the noise. But for now, for these test prints we're gonna do, we're gonna take them over into the room next to the studio where we can close the door and hopefully not have to hear this. And we're gonna do that just right now. We're gonna move it over there, we're gonna start some test prints, and then when they're done, fingers crossed they look good, we're gonna take a look at them and then move on to the next step.
What?
Day 2.
It's the next day, and the Phenom has actually completed a print, and I actually tweeted about it because I was so surprised at the quality that this was able to achieve, especially because the shipper nearly destroyed the machine. It looks like this. We still have to get it off the build plate. What I did notice is being in the other room, it is a large vat of resin, and so Resin Smell did permeate the room. It's not overwhelming, but it's enough for you to go, wow, that's a lot of smell. When I talked to BOFA at Rapid, they did send over an air filtration unit, and I do have that hooked up close to the machine. So we're gonna see if that takes away some of that smell, because some of the resin particulates probably get into the air. That hopefully will filter them out. Stay tuned for that. But we've got the build plate out. And then Mark from Peopoly said, hey, use the plastic scraper gently, stir around the resin, and kind of expose the FEP film at the bottom of the vat to the air. He said exposure to the oxygen will extend its life. I had no idea about that, so that's really good to know. We've got this test piece right here. It's still on the build plate. I've prepared 2 containers of isopropyl alcohol. The first one that we put it into will be agitated with the piece, and the goal is to get the majority of the uncured resin off of the piece, and then once we get the majority of it off, we can put it in the other one to give it a final rinse, kind of like a super crisp and clean, clear IPA to get it there. We'll take a look at it, and then we'll cure it in the natural Pacific Northwest sun. Yeah, it's sunny.
Dr. Zarkov, there's no sun. It's 8:24 in the morning, and there's no sun.
And then we start the big print. So let's get down to it. The support structures here build on to a bit of a raft that that then attaches to the build plate itself. It just popped off right there. That was super easy, and have a look at that. It's a lattice structure within this cube, and per Mark, this is a very tough print for the resin machines that use UV light. It seems to look pretty good. I don't see any problems. The top of the raft is super smooth. I am impressed. So I've got some isopropyl alcohol in here, and I'm gonna drop it in and just kind of agitate it a bit. I want to get that isopropyl alcohol into all the little nooks and crannies of that cube. That's pretty good. It looks like not a lot of liquid is coming off of that. The resin, you can see it is cloudy. It's kind of difficult to see without actually spilling it all over, but it is cloudy, so we know that we have got uncured resin off, and there we go. That is the final piece right there. It looks very sci-fi.
It does.
Almost like a Borg cube, right?
It's very Borgish.
It's very Borg cube, yeah. We've proven that the Peopoly Phenom is a machine that can take a beating and still produce amazing results. I think part of that has to do with the rigidness of the entire machine, the dual linear rails, and that giant ball screw right there in the back. Well, for now, let's go set this in the sun. Let's get this back on the build plate, and let's print something big. And here it is. This is it. This is the Aladdin lamp, or the 1001 Arabian Nights lamp, or the lamp that the genie comes out of when you rub it, and Robin Williams or Will Smith, depending on what year you're living in, appear from it.
To show you what I'm working with.
What?
I think that the Phenom did a great job with this. It was sliced at 50 microns. I can see that this is a wonderful model, and I think that the Phenom reproduced it incredibly well. There's one part that I saw. There it's kind of right there. There was a layer irregularity or something right there, and there's a tiny little hole, something that a needle might fit through. So then if I was to finish this, or when I finish this, that'll get covered up and sanded off and whatnot. So what we have to do, we have to get this off the build plate. And to do that, usually you get it off the build plate and you put it into a container of isopropyl alcohol. This is what we used for that lattice cube right here. That's not gonna work. So printing with the Phenom presents an interesting problem for resin prints. You don't get to cure or rinse prints like you did before because you're dealing with a scale that you haven't dealt with before. So I went to my local store and I got a bin that is this sized. I'm not gonna fill it full of isopropyl alcohol. Instead, I'm gonna use this spray bottle that I purchased earlier today with the goal of targeting the isopropyl alcohol on the model. And then once it's on the model, I bought these little chip brushes. I think this is a 2-inch, 1.5 inch? 2-inch. This is a 2-inch chip brush. And with this, you wanna use soft bristles to get the isopropyl alcohol into the nooks and crannies to dissolve the uncured resin that will then get left in the bin. To get started, I'm gonna have to crack open a number of isopropyl alcohol bottles. I think what I'm gonna do is start with one bottle just in this container. And it's weird. Like, I have to deal with multiple 32-ounce bottles of isopropyl alcohol in order to clean this model and rinse this model. I have an 80-watt UV LED right over there that is going to cure the model, and I'm taking multiple bottles of resin when I'm putting it in the tank. It's just extraordinary, the sheer scale of all of this. And you know, having a spray bottle with isopropyl alcohol is actually not a bad idea. Instead of keeping a towel next to a printer with some isopropyl alcohol in a bottle like this, you can keep it in a little spritzer, and you just spritz the bed a couple times, and you're good to go. Be sure you label something like this, because I don't know, I have kids, and sometimes they will use spray bottles full of water and just spray them into their mouth.
Yeah,
you don't want them.
Don't spray the cat with that.
That would be bad. Look at that. Looks to be free, just about. Just like that. Shining, shimmering, splendid. I'm leaving the support structures on, and I'm just kind of agitating it in here. The real goal, though, is to get this all cleaned off. So I've got my chip brush, and I've got my spritzer, and so there we go. Gotta get the alcohol into the places where it needs to be.
Usually.
Yeah, this isn't rum, so it doesn't need to be in me. I do need to mention that this model is made and provided by Nikko Industries. He's got some talent. He releases some incredible models, and I don't know, Sean, is there something that he might be working on with you?
Yeah, he's working on a 3D printed, totally printed armor set for me. He modeled it up. Now I just got to print it.
I've always wanted to print some armor and arm someone with it. I'm just happy that it gets to be Sean.
So is Sean.
It should be fun.
Not looking forward to the skin tight suit that goes on underneath it.
Me neither. But it will be a feature here on the channel, and you'll get to see a set of fully 3D printed armor. What's kind of nice, I did orient this model in a specific way so that the tip of, or the spout of the bottle here, or the lamp, genie in a bottle. Oh, that's Christina Aguilera. So this genie lamp, I did orient it so this was facing down. So as it built it, then the resin could drain out of it. Otherwise, the resin is, this is 100% infill. I wanted it to be strong. I'm gonna put a paper towel down on a turntable, and that turntable, turn the model while the black light is on it.
Tomorrow.
Ooh, that was a good one. The cure is done, essentially. It's to a point where this lamp is now ready for the supports to be removed and for us to apply some sanding. Like FDM prints, you still have to sand, just not as much. Here it is. Look at it. It looks fantastic. This is an amazing model by Nikko Industries. Big thanks for Nikko for reaching out to us and saying, hey, you should print this, because he was right. I think the supports attached pretty well. You can see right here that some of the supports were just popped off as we were handling it, and that's okay at this point. Let's see, does this fit? It does. That does fit. This looks good. Let's get the supports off though and really get a close look at this model. This resin is pretty good with support breakaway, and usually you use flush cutters to snip at the supports along the model, but I'm first gonna try to just break them off, and I want you to see, just like me. So here we go. And then that can be sanded away, little resin zits. Also, it is interesting, it's a little bit shinier than here, which means that the UV light, as it was curing this, couldn't get as far in, it couldn't penetrate the supports to cure it. So once we remove the supports, we might have to cure it just a little more. Here we go, supports are off, and you can see that there's these little nubbins of support that need to be sanded down. It also looks like it is a little bit shiny, it's a little bit tacky, so I think what we're gonna do, I'm gonna set this under the UV lamp, not spinning. I'm just gonna have it sat right here so it can concentrate the UV. We're gonna go get something to drink, and then we'll be right back.
Eventually.
We're back, we got some beverages, and we took a drink. Now we're hydrated and ready to go. The lamp is actually cured to the point where we can try to get some sanding done on it. I did a little test right here. And where there were little pimples and dots and stuff, there are no longer. And it goes from a bit of a shiny finish to a matte finish. So we know we're good. But just a moment, let's talk about this. This is the Whambam Slap Mat. It's 100% silicone. And the reason this is awesome is because silicone doesn't really react or adhere to adhesives or resins or what have you. And so if you do any work with UV resins or epoxies or stuff like that, anything that's gonna put this to this together for a long time or cure into a beautiful lamp, silicone mats are great because then once you're done, you can just, well, you can throw away the cured resin bits and you're left with a mat that is easily cleaned up. So for this lamp, we're gonna sand it. And because this is resin, there are certain precautions we need to take. I do have a respirator filter, and it's gonna filter anything that gets in from this side. And so I'm not gonna breathe in any of the resin dust that I create. I've also got a sheet of 400 grit sandpaper, and I have a sanding block or a sanding sponge of 220 grit, with the idea being this sanding sponge can get they can knock down some of the really harsh bits that actually stand up right here, and then the 400 will smooth it all over. I've also got my BOFA filter. We had this in place when we were printing because it greatly reduced the smell of the resin, which in turn would mean it greatly reduced the resin particulates in the air, making that smell. But also, while I'm sanding, if anything is dust and floats up, this will catch it. So, precautions, safety, we are good to go. So one of the things I want to point out, just look at the difference there. This is a resin print, and I've spent the last 5 or 10 minutes sanding this down with 400 and 220 grit sandpaper. It's been phenomenally easy to sand. I mean, you can sand PLA, you can sand ABS, but so far resin has been probably the easiest material I've ever sanded for this in the 3D printing process. I do have a little bit more work to go, so let's get this done and then we'll finish it. So it's got some, a little bit of dust on it from sanding it off. What we need to do is hit it with an air compressor, and then I'm gonna hit it with a really thin layer of black, and then gold, and then we should have ourselves a wonderful lamp. Let's get right to it. Here we are, painting is done. This is Aladdin's Lamp, again by Nikko Industries, like we mentioned before, but look at the paint job on that. Yeah, we hit it with some sandpaper originally, and then we used a matte black paint just to get a good undercoat going, and then a couple layers of this gold paint that's just gorgeous. The details are wonderful, and the gold really, really brought it out. The last thing we need to do for this lamp is to weather it, and according to Bill Duran of Punish Props Academy, I take some black acrylic paint, put it in a container with a little bit of water, and I make a slush of sorts. I paint it into the crevices, and then I wipe it clean, and then we have ourselves a finished Aladdin's Lamp. Let's get to it. Hey, look at that. We are done. Aladdin's Lamp is done, and it looks wonderful. And obviously with things like this, right? I was doing weathering, and the only way I'm gonna get better at weathering is by doing more weathering. So while this is good, it can still be better. But look at this. This is fantastic. I love this.
I love lamp.
Oh, wait, I know what you're thinking. Joel, you messed up on the weathering. You ruined the lamp. It doesn't look good at all. I hear you. So I printed two. Here is Aladdin's Lamp from Nikko Industries, but without the weathering, and I love it. I think it looks great as well. It's so smooth. It's so smooth along here. I can't really pick a favorite, but you're gonna have to, because you're gonna get one of these, or at least the chance to win one. So here's what I need you to do. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and down below in the comments, leave a comment with what you would wish for if you had a lamp with a genie in it. Obviously, you'll have to let me know which one you like better, but remember, there are rules. 1, the genie won't kill anyone for you. 2, the genie won't make anyone fall in love with you. And 3, the genie won't bring anyone back from the dead.
It's not a pretty picture. I don't like doing it.
So again, subscribe, leave that comment, and let me know if you like the dirty one or the shining, shimmering, splendid Aladdin's lamp. Let's say you like this model, you like the weathered one, you like the shining, shimmering, splendid one, but you don't have a giant resin 3D printer. Never worry, this model's available, and you can print this on an FDM machine. There are certain considerations you'll need to do in order to print it, and you're gonna have to sand it, and you're gonna have to remove a lot of support, but don't worry. If resin printing isn't for you, there are FDM options. A big thanks to Nikko Industries for loaning us this model and letting us print it on the Peopoly Phenom. And really, speaking of that machine, it's a good machine. As you saw, the machine is large and it produces spectacular results. It did have problems in shipping. I spoke to Mark from Peopoly at the East Coast RepRap Festival. They're holding back a little bit and they're gonna do some further drop tests to make sure packaging is better so that when you get yours, it's in tip-top shape. The rails inside and the giant ball screw provide precision like you wouldn't believe it. The tank holds 2 bottles of resin, and that means you're going to have to invest in more resin if you want one of these. The fans in the machine are large and loud, and like 5 fans in a gaming PC type loud. That part does suck, so you'll have to find a place to put the machine where it's quiet, or at least where you won't be able to hear it. Also, when that machine is there, it's gonna need some airflow. With that large amount of resin in the tank, there's a lot more smell. So unless you have a filter like I've got, you're gonna need some air around that machine to make sure the smell doesn't get to you. And last but not least, obviously we're dealing with resin here, so treat it with the respect it deserves, be safe with it, and when you dispose of it, make sure it's in accordance with the rules of your local municipalities. So I wish you the best of luck in winning one of these 2 Aladdin's lamps. Sean gets the other one.
That's right.
So just pick the one that Sean doesn't want. He's not going to tell you that. Beyond all that, don't forget to hug each other more. Best of luck, and as always, high five.